What's going on, guys? Today I'm going to be talking about my experience seeing My Chemical Romance on their reunion tour in 2022. So I'm just going to preface this by saying that I've been a huge My Chemical Romance fan for the majority of my life. In 2004, two of the most influential albums for me personally were released: The College Dropout by Kanye West and Three Cheers for Sweet Revenge by My Chemical Romance. I think both of them were very big on helping me find my identity, and especially for My Chemical Romance, like, they were a band that I had wanted to see before I had even really went to concerts. I pretty much owned all of their CDs, which I later bought on vinyl in my 20s. I had watched their documentary, Life on the Murder Scene, on repeat pretty much. Even in my grade 8 yearbook, I listed my favorite song as Vampires Will Never Hurt You. So it's safe to say, they were just that band for me growing up that really not necessarily got me into music, but helped me find my identity as far as the kind of music that I liked. Prior to them, my favorite band of all time was Jimmy Eat World. And I can just remember seeing I'm Not Okay on Much Music for the first time, and just I don't know if it was necessarily identifying with it, because at the time I was 12 years old, but there was a part of me that was this is the music for me. And it's kind of hard to put that into place. So pretty much throughout my teenage years, I was super into them. And then around 2010, in November of 2010, another pretty monumental time happened where Kanye had put out My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy, and on the exact same day, My Chemical Romance put out Danger Days. And I can just remember that day pretty vividly, and just thinking I'm outgrowing them. This isn't for me. And maybe it was because, in 2010, I would have been 18, and my love for hip hop was always there. And I found my love for rock music and emo and that style of music was kind of drifting. And the album that they had put out at the time, for me, it was very poppy and bright, and it just wasn't the kind of music that I was really into at the moment. So definitely felt like I was losing my love. And even when they dropped Conventional Weapons, I remember I was actually working at Sunrise at the time, and as the EPs were coming out, there were some songs that I did kind of like I did like Boy Division, Light Behind Your Eyes, things like that, but I just felt that there wasn't really that magic that Bullets or Revenge had. I felt like they were kind of losing that. And I had watched performances of them during the Danger Days era. And one in particular just sticks out to me. It's them performing Sing. At that moment, I was just they looked like they didn't have the passion anymore. They looked like they didn't really want to be there. So at the point when they had broken up, in a weird way, I didn't really feel sad. I just kind of felt it was a bit of my childhood that had kind of gone, but it wasn't something that I felt upset about. It just made sense. It just felt like they weren't that kind of band anymore. And then I actually found myself years later, I kind of embraced my love for pop music and just catchy melodies and good songwriting. And I found myself actually going back to Danger Days and enjoying it a lot more. I always liked Na Na Na, but I found myself enjoying Save Yourself and Party Poison. There's some really good songs on that album. Now there's some absolutely horrible songs. I'm not a big fan of Vampire Money. I still think Sing is probably the worst song that they've ever put out. But the concept of that record, what they were able to do with it, I think has a lot of merit, and I think that there is some talent there. It's not necessarily the My Chemical Romance that I had liked when I was 12 years old, but maybe for someone who was 12 years old at that point in time, maybe that album would have been as impactful for them. So as kind of time went on, I picked up the vinyl. I still found myself listening to them, and I just never thought that they would tour again. I thought that this was kind of it for them, unfortunately, and I was okay with it. But when I saw that they were doing a reunion tour, and there were a lot of rumors of them starting to record music again, I think Joe Jonas, for whatever reason, had leaked that they were in the studio. I just had this excitement. I was interested to see what they were going to do, and I didn't really expect that because, like I said, I was pretty okay with them breaking up. So when they played that LA show, I was happy, but I thought it was just going to kind of be a one-off. And then I saw that they put out that video of them announcing the tour dates, and I remember seeing that Toronto was on there, and I was ecstatic. I was so excited. And I knew that it was going to be kind of a bitch to get tickets. I have definitely had my experience, trying to get tickets before. It's in no way my first rodeo, and I knew it was going to be difficult. I remember the day that the tickets went on sale, I had contacted, one of my friends who lives in BC. I told him to pull up his Ticketmaster account because he's even better at getting tickets than I am. One of my friends who I was going with, I told him to log into his Ticketmaster account. I got my wife to create a Ticketmaster account. I already have 2 Ticketmaster accounts. I put one of them on data. I used one of them on my home Wi-Fi. And I just kind of prayed that we would be able to get tickets. And thankfully, I was able to get tickets on one of my Ticketmaster accounts. Were they the tickets that I wanted? Probably not. I got 307s, row 10, but I got them for face value. I didn't have to, struggle with buying them for resale or anything like that. And I think they were 104 after tax, something around there. And I just remember after the tickets had went on sale, I would scroll through Ticketmaster to see what they were being resold for. $350 a piece, $400. And it just felt like, this is crazy. I was surprised that they didn't announce more tour dates or anything like that, but especially I think at that time, maybe Montreal had a show. Maybe they had one show, but they weren't really playing Canada that much, which was surprising because they have a pretty big fan base here. They've always sold really, really well here. So, got those tickets January of 2020. March 2020, the world shuts down, and I was just kind of like, okay, well, what's going to happen with this show? And part of me thought that they were going to just straight up cancel the tour or postpone it. Would I have to kind of fight for tickets again? But then they just ended up postponing it a year, which was fine. Yeah, I was a little disappointed, obviously, but there was a part of me that was just like, okay, I waited. At this point, it had been like, over 10 years. What's another year? Then another year goes by. And of course, in 2021, we're still experiencing the pandemic, and they push it back another year. And at this point, they put another night on sale, which had me a little bit weary. Because I was seeing, I had tickets to a couple of other shows, and a couple of them had gotten canceled or rescheduled due to COVID. Part of me felt like maybe they were going to go row by row and just space people out somehow. I wasn't too sure, honestly. So I just kept the tickets for the first night. So safe to say, obviously, the show did happen, which is a great thing. it was an interesting experience, that's for sure. And if I could go back, I will say I would have gotten tickets for the first night as well. Personally, I never buy tickets to the same tour twice. Even when Kanye did like a second round of the St. Pablo tour, and I loved my experience at the St. Pablo tour the first time. Thankfully, I was at one of the Toronto shows, and it wasn't, we didn't have any hour-long rant, or you didn't walk off stage or anything like that, so it was very nice. But he set a tour date for, I saw him in like August, and he was coming back in December. And although, he's one of my favorite artists of all time, I'm just not going to see the same tour twice. Thankfully, he did cancel that, so I didn't really miss out on anything. But one of the main reasons for that is because there is no point to see the set list twice. And I never look at the set list prior to going to any of these shows, because I think one of the funnest parts about it is not knowing what to expect, not knowing if my favorite song is going to come on next, or what they're going to play in general. So I ended up actually getting tickets to Nas and Wu-Tang the night before, which in itself was an experience, and that's a story for another video. But it made for a very interesting weekend, and it was really cool. On the day that the My Chemical Romance show was, I just me and my friend had woken up at the place that we were staying, and he kind of looks at me and says, like, Phil, where are we sitting? And I said, we're sitting 307 row 10. He's like, is there any way we could get like better seats? And I'm like, there's no possible way that we're going to be able to get any better seats at this point on the day of the concert, especially after night one. If night one went well, there's going to be a lot of people who are going to be looking for tickets to night two. Then he just kind of looks at me and says, I'm on Ticketmaster right now, and they have row one, section 108, row 1, which for Scotiabank Arena in Toronto is the lower bowl. So he's like, are these good seats? And I'm like, those are basically floors. How much are they? He shows me the amount, and it's a standard ticket price. It's not the resale. It's not a platinum ticket or anything like that. And I'm like, man, that's great, but I just switched jobs. I can't really, money's kind of tight right now. We already have tickets. Like, I don't really want to spend the amount. And he just kind of looks at me and says, aren't they your favorite band? I said, yeah. He's like, well, then it's on me. Consider it an early Christmas present. And like, it almost made me like tear up, honestly, as weird as it sounds. And it means a lot to me, because being there was one thing, but the seats that we were able to sit in were just incredible. Like, I wasn't looking at a video screen the whole time. I basically was like, I was stage level. I could see the crowd, and the crowd was awesome, but I was able to see the band very, very well. And everyone around me, it just felt like the energy was really there. Like, the people who were in the seats around us, like, really wanted to be there. I remember when we sat down, my friend who I was with, he started having a conversation with this girl that was sitting near us. And she was talking about how her favorite song by them, they just weren't going to play. And I was like, interesting. Like, what's your favorite song? Because to me, I was expecting the set list. I was expecting Major, Black Parade, and Danger Days, because those were like kind of the most recent albums for them, and the most popular in a lot of ways. And she said her favorite song is It's Not a Fashion Statement, It's a Death Wish, which is also my favorite song from Three Cheers. Probably not, maybe not my favorite overall My Chemical Romance song, but it's definitely up there for sure. And I'm like, you know, maybe they'll play it. The chances of them playing it are probably pretty low. Like that song and I Never Told You What I Do for a Living, definitely those two are my favorites off of Three Cheers. But 3 songs in, they start playing it and I lost my mind. Like the level of excitement from the crowd was really there. I was expecting to see a lot more people my age, like I just turned 30, you know, a lot of people in my section were kind of older, but I looked down at the floor and a lot of the people are young. Like a lot of the people are like teenagers. And a lot more of the younger demographic definitely have the Danger Days era shirts on. You know, I can see based on the merch that people are wearing, you know, what era of My Chemical Romance they enjoy the most. And it was just, it was an interesting experience. I've never really seen a crowd sing along to like every song before. It felt like every single song that they played was a hit. And especially one of my favorite moments from the whole concert was probably when Famous Last Words came on, or Teenagers. I don't even like Teenagers as a song, I'll be honest with you. But just the energy from the crowd and the amount of people on their phones was kind of minimal. Like there was the odd person, but most of the time a lot of people were just watching the performance and enjoying it. And a lot of the time that's what I miss most about shows prior to people having access to their phones. And at the beginning, they played Foundations of Decay, which, again, that was not my favorite song when I first heard it. I felt like Gerard's vocals weren't really what I was expecting, but as time has went on, like I really, really enjoy it. And now I'm at the point where I kind of am excited to hear what they put out as far as like a piece of a body of work. Just, I don't know. There was a lot of moments that I enjoyed from the show. There were a couple of songs that I didn't like they played Surrender the Night from Conventional Weapons, and I've never really enjoyed that song. They also played Vampire Money, which, again, not a huge fan of that song. But they played a couple of songs that I really wasn't expecting. Again, namely Fashion Statement. And then towards the end, I think right before the final song of the night, they played Vampires Will Never Hurt You. And again, in my grade 8 yearbook, I listed that as my favorite song. And it's just such an aggressive song for them. I didn't really expect them to play that anymore. So that was a really cool experience. Even, I can remember the hype when they played Bury Me in Black, which is off of the CD that came with the DVD Life on the Murder Scene. And I could tell, like, probably, you know, not to insult the audience, but I could tell probably 25% of the crowd knew what that song was. Like, it's a pretty deep cut, and I was very surprised that they played it. Just overall, the set list, it was mixed. We got a lot of Danger Days, but we did get a lot of Revenge. We got Cemetery Drive. And the way that Gerard was delivering the vocals for a lot of these songs were incredible. I was really taken back, honestly, because again, the last time I had watched videos of their performances, it just literally looked like he did not want to be there whatsoever. So I was happy that the whole band showed up and were ready to play. I think that the future for them is releasing another project, and after that they're gonna definitely tour again, because they seem to enjoy it way too much. Any band that changes the set list night to night, which I later learned after the concert, I feel like has to love performing, because they very easily could have phoned this in. They could have just like played the hits and done that night after night, and that's that. But they're playing deep cuts. They're playing songs that people don't expect. At our show, we didn't even get The Ghost of You, which it kind of sucks for my friend who I was with, because that was his favorite song. And he definitely was not happy when I told him that the night before had it on their set list. And that was the sad part. When I looked at the set list from the night before, like they got Headfirst for Halos, they got Ghost of You. It was more of a House of Wolves. It was definitely more of a, not like a mainstream fan set list, but they didn't play as many obscure tracks as they did the second night. So I'm definitely happy that I went the second night, because I don't think they're going to play a lot of those songs again if they do tour again. But if I could go back, I would definitely have went the first night as well. So overall, you know, if you have the ability to go to one of these shows, definitely do, because it was an awesome experience. Even afterwards, my friend who I was with, he's, you know, not as big of a fan of them as I am, but he even like looked at me and was like, man, we should have went night one as well. And I'm like, I totally agree. If I could go back, I definitely would. So yeah, that's just my, you know, it's supposed to be my quick thoughts, but it's not really my quick thoughts anymore, of seeing My Chemical Romance in 2022. Thanks a lot for watching, guys. Have a great day.